So, good evening everyone and welcome to Interwoven Sound Spaces. Today's workshop concert explores the possibilities of telematic music performances in new music. Ensembles in Berlin and in Pitea, Ensemble K&M and Norbottenneo, present performing and interacting together at a distance and explore new musical ensemble practices through textile and network technologies.
Can two ensembles performing hundreds of kilometers apart tangibly make music and interact with each other, and in this way create a new musical experience for the audience and the ensemble playing of the musicians in both places?
The results of this artistic and technical research, which we have conducted the past 9 months with the 4 composers, Ana Maria Rodriguez, Malte Giesen, Kat Hope, and Anne Rosean, are presented in this joint interactive workshop concert with musicians of the ensembles K&M in Berlin and Norbottenneo in Pitea, Sweden.
Herzlich willkommen und schönen guten Abend. Wir freuen uns, dass Sie den Weg zu uns gefunden haben. Das Werkstattkonzert erforscht die Möglichkeiten telematischer Musikperformances in neuer Musik. Ensembles in Berlin und Pitea in Nordschweden präsentieren das gemeinsame Konzertieren und Interagieren auf Distanz und erproben neue musikalische Ensemblepraxis durch Textil- und Netzwerktechnologien. Können 2 Ensembles, die Hunderte von Kilometern voneinander entfernt konzertieren, spürbar miteinander musizieren und interagieren und auf diese Weise ein neues Musikerlebnis für das Publikum und das Ensemblespiel der Musizierenden an beiden Orten erschaffen? Die Ergebnisse dieser künstlerischen und technischen Forschung, die wir gemeinsam mit den Komponistinnen Ana Maria Rodriguez, Malte Giesen, Kat Hope und Anne Rosean sowie MusikerInnen der Ensembles K&M in Berlin und Norbottenneo in Pitea in den letzten 9 Monaten durchgeführt haben, werden in diesem gemeinsamen interaktiven Werkstattkonzert gezeigt.
Sound is emitted by the network, its most vibrant transmission. It is stretched, distorted, bent into shape by the travel. A gesture performed on one edge of the network reverberates through it, reaching another edge, transformed into a sound, a vibration, another gesture. A chain of events builds up. A string is plucked in Berlin. A percussion instrument vibrates in Pitea. The body of a musician responds with another musical gesture. A wearable captures the movement. Each action is followed by feedback, to a point in which there is no more cause and effect. The network itself becomes an instrument with its own peculiarities, its own way of coloring, distorting, delaying sounds in multiple spaces. Connections can be created and broken. The only way to find out how this will be sounding is to be there, to play and to listen.
Der Klang wird in das Netzwerk ausgestrahlt, wird zu seiner lebendigen Übertragung. Er wird durch die Bewegung gedehnt, verzerrt und in Form gebogen. Eine Geste, die an einem Ende des Netzes ausgeführt wird, hallt durch das Netz und erreicht ein anderes Ende, wo sie in einen Klang oder in eine andere Geste verwandelt wird. So entsteht eine Kette von Ereignissen. In Berlin wird eine Saite gezupft, in Pitea vibriert ein Schlaginstrument, der Körper einer Musikerin antwortet mit einer weiteren musikalischen Geste, ein Wearable fängt die Bewegung ein. Auf jede Aktion folgt eine Rückkopplung, bis zu einem Punkt, an dem es keine Ursache und Wirkung mehr gibt. Das Netzwerk selbst wird zu einem Instrument mit eigenen Besonderheiten, einer eigenen Art, Klänge in verschiedenen Räumen zu färben, zu verzerren und zu verzögern. Verbindungen können hergestellt und unterbrochen werden und der einzige Weg, um herauszufinden, wie das klingen wird, ist, zu spielen, zuzuhören, präsent zu sein.
The work you've just heard is Ana Maria Rodriguez Cosima plus Daniel. She's following the performance on the live stream and is not physically present either in Pitea nor in Berlin. Therefore, I will now read her program note to this composition, which is based on the video composition Cosima, which is part of the concert installation In Nature Alone Are Forms for 6 musicians, 19 gongs, video and electronics. The piece is named after the cellist Cosima. The title also refers to musical interventions by Daniel. Cosima acts like a Tai Chi practitioner. She focuses on herself and her slow movements, regardless of what is happening around her. The choreography uses a repertoire of movements that smoothly flow into each other. The sound is composed of different qualities of noise. On an abstract level, the sound includes both the sounds of our environment, its cycles like ocean noise, and the urban noise continuum. The sound is projected into the space via loudspeakers in Berlin and simultaneously via a set of snare drums in Pitea, mediating between digital and immediate spatial experience. I will now give the word to Malte Giesen to say a few words about his composition titled Study for 3 Instruments as Hybrid Resonant Bodies.
Dankeschön. Yeah, good evening to you all. Thanks for the introduction. I just want to give a short overview about the concept of my piece, what's the idea behind it, and it derived from my interest of working with electronics that are not played through traditional loudspeakers, but that are projected through other resonant bodies, so that you don't have a typical loudspeaker sound or this typical separation of a live played instrument and an electronic sound coming through a speaker. So I started experimenting with sending sound into instruments with special speaker setups. For example, taking transducers and putting them on a cello and using the cello itself as a resonator, as an amplification device, and also as a filter. And this kind of treatment works very well, especially with big instruments such as a cello, or with wind instruments, big wind instruments such as baritone saxophone or bass clarinet or contrabass clarinet, where you have big tubes and a big device that's a big resonant body. And I built a special speaker to put into the contrabass clarinet so that I could project sounds into the instruments, which are then very much altered and filtered by the instrument itself. So it's not just a loudspeaker that is supposed to project a very neutral sound and project the sound as it is, but it actually gets more vivid. So it makes a lot of sense to put very simple electronic sounds into it, like just a simple rectangular sound wave, which is very similar to the sound the tube of the clarinet actually produces, that it has a very similar spectrum, and then just let the instrument alter that sound, filter that sound, color it, and the instrumentalist can play with it. So by opening and closing holes, he can change a lot of the sound, or even by adjusting the shape of his mouth, of the mouth cavity, he can alter the sound. And the same applies to the cello, so by playing with the sound on the strings or dampening the strings or let the strings resonate, you can change the sound that's coming to the instrument. And at first I did this with fixed sounds, And in this piece, all the electronic sounds are generated live, and they're also controlled live by the sensors the instrumentalists are wearing. So they are controlling the electronically produced sound with the sensor devices. So they add instrumental playing capability to the things they're already doing, so that they cannot just not play only cello or only contrabass clarinet, but on top of that, they can play the electronics into the instruments. And so they have an additional layer of playing. And the sound of that is coming out of the clarinet is then captured by the microphones. And on the other side here in Sweden, Robert has also contrabass clarinet with a similar speaker inside. The sound that's captured here is played into the instrument in Sweden, so it's filtered again. So we have this kind of double filtering and double altering of the sound, and then it's captured again, and then we can hear it through the speaker here. So we have doubled this principle practically, and this sort of aesthetic of electronics that come from the instrument itself. It mixes very well with the instrumental sound. It gives additional playing capabilities, additional controls to the instrumentalists. And by taking this principle and sending it to another place, we could luckily avoid this effect of feedback, because if you play sound into an instrument and you record it at the same time and play it back into the instrument, you will create a feedback loop very quickly. And we could avoid that by taking the sound of his clarinet and putting it into his clarinet, so we don't have this feedback loop. So having the distance, this really long distance between the ensembles, was very practically here to avoid this constraint in this concept. Yes, I think that's all I have to say for now. Enjoy.
lot of lag here.
We will now move on to The Drift, a piece by the Australian composer Cat Hope. And we are very happy that she is able to join us in person. Although, unfortunately for the audience in Pitea, she will only be present in Berlin. But we welcome Cat Hope up here on stage to present her piece.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming. Particular thank you to Barrett and Federico who invited me for this project. My piece, and thanks, Stefan. I'm really interested in the relationship between performers and music notation. So in my piece, I wanted to use the wearables to track the natural movements of musicians in a way that they could change the way the score behaves. So the performers, which will be Theo here in Berlin and 3 performers in Sweden, each have their own wearables that change what happens to the music notation, which is a graphic digital notation already in motion. And the wearables throw the, I guess you could say, score images up and down a timbral scale so that the colour of what they play changes as the piece progresses. And the title, The Drift, refers to these blocks of notation which drift around on the score page, and is also a bit of a nod to one of my favourite artists, Scott Walker. The live electronics for this piece are also notated and performed by Federico Visi. And I'd also like to thank Aaron Wyatt, who helped me with or did the programming for the drifting notation on this piece. Thank you.
The final piece of this concert is composed by Ann Rosén, a Swedish composer who unfortunately is not able to join us in person tonight. Therefore, I will now read her program note to the composition titled Tension. The piece is based on movement, streamed communication, collective breathing, but also on the tension that arises from musicians physically separated by almost 2,000 kilometers, playing together, relying on the internet to communicate their feelings, thoughts, and music. The music and sounds generated by the strings is in real time transformed into notation, from which the woodwinds choose and play their own motif. The music uses spatiality as a musical parameter, and the musician's physical gestures determine how the music inhabits and utilizes the audience space. Enjoy.
One. Okay, thank you so much, everyone here in Berlin and in Pitea, Sweden. I would like to, thank you for being here and also remind you that there's an exhibition in the foyer that you can have a look at, which will show a lot of the things we've been working on in this past 9 months. This project was relatively short, just 9 months, but like we've been through a long process of research and basically trial and error, and we worked with lots of different moving parts, fragile structure, very delicate dynamics, as you could hear tonight. So you can get a glimpse of that in the foyer. And and I would like to thank all the musicians that were so skillful and patient to work with us in Interwoven Sound Spaces. They are Robert Eck, clarinet in Pitea, Cosima Gerhardt, cello here in Berlin, Mina Fred, viola and Pitea, Daniel Sauro, percussion, Pitea, Theo Nabicht, contrabass clarinet, and here in Berlin, and Rebecca Lenton on flute. A huge thank you to Cody Kerner and Emma Wood, Philipp Schwentner, Ben Herman, and Jakob Wunstag, Stefan Osterhöher, our host in Sweden, Lars Johansson, Thomas Johannesson, Daniel Elfström that helped us at Studio Acousticum in Pitea, Christian Scarlett, Olga Skorzias, Moritz Leisen, Henriette Runge, Stefan Stanke, Tim Nowitzki, Nikolaus Brade, Thomas Bruns, Monika Danielsson, Zora Kutz, and Jan Barbe.
Thank you so much, Federico, as well. And I would like to just second this huge thank you. All of you have done an absolute amazing job. There's also special things going to Helena Ehrenbach, Anja Holle, Fang Tsai, Franz Siebler, Robert Bornfleet, Tonja Welter, the TU Fachgebiet Audio Kommunikation, the UDK Department for Funding and Cooperation, the Konzertsaal and Acousticum Management and Technical Teams. Thank you so much for welcoming us here. And the funding bodies Kulturstiftung des Bundes und Einstein Center Digital Future. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you.
Thank you.